Hey, everybody, starting off the week strong with an all-news show, and it's a thick boy.
It is. And how do we not talk about what happened at the Oscars last night? A streaming platform feature won Best Picture for the first time. It wasn't Netflix, but
there was another story that just, you know what? Spoiler alert now, so you can prepare yourselves appropriately. There's another big story that we spent like 40 minutes on, and that's the slap. We did. It happened.
It happened.
We're not sorry.
We went through every single permutation in relation to tech, social media, and celebrity, and media.
And feelings.
And our feelings on it. And we all have to process this together, and we're never going to talk about it again in 36 hours. And then, of course, we're going to talk about crypto continuing to boom. There is a exchange called FTX that's backed by major VCs, and apparently they have no investors on their board, and they're worth $32 billion. What's the worst that could happen?
And reportedly, Apple is working on a hardware subscription. We break down what it could look like in a world where you just pay Apple for everything.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. We're really liking the bundling that's going on. It's going to be a great show.
Stick with us.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. A business is only as strong as its people, and every hire matters. Post your first job for free at linkedin.com/twist. Rocket. To hire in today's competitive market, you need outstanding recruiting. Rocket's expert recruiters, paired with machine learning candidate matching, sets them apart from the rest. Get 20% off your first placement at getrocket.com/twist. And OpenPhone. As a startup founder, a lot of mistakes are easy to roll back, but using your personal cell phone number as your company number isn't one of them. OpenPhone makes it easy to get business phone numbers for you and your team right on top of your existing devices. Visit openphone.co/twist to get 20% off your first 6 months.
Hey, everyone. Happy Monday. We're going to do a news show today, as you might imagine, because frankly, we like to do that on Mondays. We've had a lot of days to watch headlines go by and just like bite our tongues because we aren't allowed to talk about it other than constantly on Twitter. And there is quite a bit of news today. And I think you all know where we're going to have to start. I think we can all agree that the big number one takeaway from the Oscars last night was a streaming movie winning Best Picture. Am I right? That's all we have to talk about?
That was sort of, I think, the number distant two. I don't know if you watched it last night, but I literally did a tweet where I was like, the Oscars are bankrupt. I wouldn't watch this thing if you paid me. They don't know how to pick movies. The whole thing has become nonsense. It's not about cinema anymore. They've got all of these celebrities showing up, Kardashians. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching the Oscars, rewinding it, looking at clips. I spent 4 hours on Oscar content last night when I thought I was going to spend 0.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're referring to the fact that there was an incident between Will Smith, Chris Rock, where Will Smith slapped. You could describe the slap any way you like.
An open hand clocking.
Hand slapped Chris Rock. Oof. And what an amount of emotion went through my mind. And as I tried to dissect this, just so we can level set here for the 4 people watching who did not see it. Here's the Japanese version with uncensored, get my wife's name out of your mouth. And so let's start with the joke heard round the world.
He is praying that Will Smith wins. Like, please, Lord. Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard.
So what's happening now, obviously, is Will Smith coming on stage, and there it is.
Wow.
Okay. So I think we can pause there.
Yeah.
I just want to start with, I saw you and other people on Twitter. I'm in the hot tub after a day of skiing. I'm a little après de ski in the hot tub. And I see my Twitter go off. What just happened? What just happened? Preet Bharara, you, just everybody on the planet who would normally maybe, not be saying the same exact thing on Twitter is saying, what
all
just
say
happened?
the same thing. So were you not watching live?
I was not watching live. So I get the signal on Twitter because I was tweeting. And
yeah, it was a bad signal for sure.
It's a bat signal moment, right? And so I watched the joke. Now, I want to start with the joke and ask you a simple question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get the joke?
Yeah.
You got the joke as in she has a shaved head and G.I. Jane, Demi Moore had a shaved head.
Totally. Yep.
Okay. So I get the joke. I did not get the joke because when I saw them flash to Jada Smith, I didn't know if that was her normal haircut because some women will wear hair very short or if her hair was pulled back. I just couldn't visually tell. I wasn't paying attention, right? So I don't exactly get the joke.
The red carpet and exactly,
I didn't see the red carpet. So I'm trying to put together what's going on here.
What is up? Yep.
So I didn't get the joke, didn't land for me. And then I'm like, okay, G.I. Jane, it's a compliment joke because
I saw your tweet about that. I was like,
yes, I was like, is this a compliment or what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Because Demi Moore that was the performance of a lifetime, an amazing film. She was Diesel, beautiful, amazing, powerful. And I remember Jada Smith because I don't know everything about their lives, but I do understand that they have a colorful life, that there's some Facebook show, Red Table or something.
Mm-hmm.
I know enough about pop culture to know they have a very raw Red Table thing where they talk with their kids and other people about very details of their lives. So I'm trying to piece all this together in my mind. And I'm like, that's a compliment joke or a joke? It's not making sense to me.
Yeah. By the way, everyone, I'm just in all of our listeners, I see our noties freaking out and jumping ahead. We know we're going to get to all the context. Right now, we're reliving our live experience.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
but I did see your tweet and I was like, ooh, honey.
Let me ask you this. Did you know that she was suffering from alopecia? Am I pronouncing that?
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
I did not. Evidently,
Most
she has been very open about that, but all I care about is like tech and business crap. So I never read celebrity news. So I didn't know that. Evidently, she has been open about it. It was certainly a rude joke no matter what.
Well, a rude joke to compare her to G.I. Jane if she had chosen the hairstyle would have been maybe playful, but
it would have been playful and lazy. Right. It would have been like
but it wouldn't have been
and dated, but it wouldn't have been like mean.
Yes. And so here's the thing. Once you know that she is suffering from hair loss, and it's not male pattern baldness, which men go through, it is rare for women to lose their hair.
It's an autoimmune disorder. It's like really terrible. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like trying to figure all this out and I'm realizing, okay, does Chris Rock know this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, because this is the piece of information I don't have to make a judgment on what happened from Chris Rock's perspective? Because Chris Rock has been making jokes about the Smiths, who are high profile, fair game, sure. Making jokes about himself, making jokes about all kinds of celebrities. That's why you bring him there, is to make jokes.
Comic, and it was an insult comic show, right? You have Amy Schumer, which we'll get to in a minute. I have a lot of
Ricky Gervais, host of Globes, right?
Exactly. Like it has become an insult comic show.
Right. And it is part of being a celebrity is that you get taken down a notch.
100% knew and evidently had made a joke to that effect previously, like had already made fun of this sort of alopecia situation.
He had.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't seen that. So we're all trying to piece this together in real time. And I think that this is the interesting thing about this story in a media basis. Because think for a second, Molly, of what this story triggered. There is comedy, celebrity, marriage, defending your wife, defending your spouse, live television, Oscars being the worst program on the planet that's sort of disintegrated over time.
Yeah.
And maybe race a little bit.
And then accountability.
And accountability, right, yes. And cancel culture and should he be arrested? All this stuff is going through your mind. And I'm trying to figure out the joke. Culture. I'm still at the joke.
And poor Jason's like, wait, I don't get it. It seems like kind of old and then maybe it's okay.
So I'm trying to understand. And this is the thing about comedy. If it's funny, if it's really funny, that everybody goes, oh, that was hilarious. Let's move on. But if it's mean or a bad joke, well, now we're in a different territory because here, what I need to know, the piece of information I don't have, did Chris Rock know she has alopecia or not. That is the piece of evidence I don't know. If he did know she has a disease, if she had had cancer and lost her hair, oh my Lord, you don't make that joke.
Yeah.
And you certainly don't make that joke at the Oscars in front of the person. Like maybe in the Comedy Cellar at 3 a.m, like it's still distasteful, but maybe, I don't know. Somebody tell me about comedy if you could get away with that, but you just don't go after people for their...
The Oscars is a highly scripted show, and there's no universe in which like Chris Rock or whoever wrote that joke. And I was talking to a friend today and we were like, the eternal mystery and the thing that we will never know for sure, because he will probably take it to his grave, is who wrote that joke and who approved it. But a lot of people saw the script. It went into the teleprompter. So like,
that's a great point. I didn't think about that. Like, so everybody's complicit in the joke.
Oh, everybody's complicit in the joke because they have turned the Oscars into a insult comedy show. And I don't mean to be like the old lady mom in the room, but for years I've been like, I don't really like this. Like, why is everybody so mean? Like, it's mean. There were mean, I mean,
I love it.
Certainly,
and this is the thing about comedy. People
this is
like
the thing about comedy, but it's not the thing about Oscars, right? Like, it's like, here these people work so hard.
In that context, you don't like it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't, you know me.
You just generally don't like it.
I'm a general softie, right? Like, I'm like, why does everyone have to be so mean? I don't like it. But
So you don't like the Comedy Central roast? You don't like Ricky Gervais at the Globes? Okay.
I don't. I think that, I mean, and I'm not even saying like some of it can be really funny, and Amy Schumer had some great, there were some funny moments, but it just, I don't understand and also there's a time and place to do a roast, and that's a roast.
Yes. Correct. When you're in the roast, it's a safe space for roasting, and everybody opts into it.
I'm just an old mom.
Listen. There's been a great reshuffling. Everybody is doing the great resignation. People are moving jobs. The pandemic has changed people's goals in life. Maybe they want to work from home. They're being forced to come into an office. Everything's on the table. Well, you need to go recruit those people. You need to get them on your team. Maybe you've lost some people on your team and you got to refill positions because of the great resignation, because people are checking out their options. Well, it's time for you to go on offense, and it's time for you to use my secret weapon, which is LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is here to help you connect with the best candidates faster, and your first one's always free. We just hired another video editor to help get This Week in Startups out. We're doing 6 episodes a week, and we needed more video editing help. Boom. We found somebody amazing, and we found them in under 2 weeks. You can create a free job post in minutes, and you'll reach the world's largest professional network with over 770 million people. And now, you might have noticed this is very subtle, but when you go to somebody's LinkedIn profile page, you notice that purple hiring frame around their avatar, the picture? That is a new feature that they added to spread the word very subtly that you're hiring. So here's your call to action. It's super easy. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the candidates you want to talk to, and it helps you do that faster. Every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn, and you can post your job for free. I kid you not, at linkedin.com/twist. That's linkedin.com/TWIST. Again, first job is free. LinkedIn does that to support startups who listen to This Week in Startups. Terms and conditions do apply because they're giving you something for free.
So I'm an old mom and I'm like, that joke is horrible.
Okay.
But then
now where did you go next?
So I think, the joke, no one should have told that joke. That was lazy, cruel, and stupid. And by the way, if you're going to go after the Smiths, then go after the Oscar nominee. Like, don't go after his wife, right? That was punching down. From a comedy perspective, that was punching down.
Yeah, but she is also a celebrity. They also do, here's the mitigating things. I'm not saying this joke works, but if another joke about them, for what I understand, they have an open marriage or something, and they're incredibly public about this. And there was a joke earlier about it where one of the female comedians was kind of like, hey, Will, Jada, can I borrow Will kind of situation.
Right.
And they kind of laughed that off.
That whole thing was also kind of yucky and weird, by the way.
That's also a little cringe.
That whole thing of just making this wonderful, brilliant actress into just this like man-eater thing was also kind of gendered and strange and cringy.
Yeah.
However, then you get to the part where Will Smith walks up on stage and strikes a person on live television. Strikes him, like hits him in the face.
Wow.
And goes back to his seat. The cameras stay on him the whole time.
Right. Good job to the camera operators.
Really? Or maybe you cut away from that.
I would have cut away. I mean, here's the thing. If you're the camera operators, your job is to stay focused on the people. I'm just talking about framing the shot here. Should the person who has their finger on the drop button, and there's what, a 30-second delay on a show like that?
There's a 30-second delay.
Minimum 15-second? We'll find this out in the thing. So
I
this
think
is
it
what
was,
my
I
mind
saw on Twitter that it was 30 seconds,
somebody
but I have
has
no idea,
a
right?
button. Somebody has a button where they press if somebody curses. Because I think on the American broadcast, you didn't hear.
It was all bleeped.
It was all bleeped. So there was a button. So they bleeped the sound, but they didn't bleep the action.
Right.
They could have just cut
they
to commercial.
stayed on Will Smith. And so at this point, by the way, I'm watching live with my son.
Oh.
I see this happen. Everything goes silent because they're bleeping the entire thing. And I'm like scrambling for the remote. I'm starting to swear because I'm like, what just happened? Where the f is the remote? Like, where is it? What is going on?
A million Americans did the same thing. My son is
like, what's happening? And texts come in. And so, but we look up, and even though it's silent, you can see Will Smith, and it couldn't have been more obvious what he's saying, right? He's like, you keep my wife's name out your mouth. Like,
yeah, it
is clear as day. And I'm like, that is not a bit, right?
It's not a bit, right? Oh, right. We've skipped over the whole part. Is this a bit?
Tons of people, like well into the night, tons of people were like, no, I still think it might be a bit. And I'm like, no, it's not a bit. Like, anyway, so all of that happens. We're trying to figure out if it's real or not. And then it just gets more and more surreal because the night just goes on. Poor Questlove wins a fucking phenomenal Oscar for Summer of Soul, is so rattled, gives this like speech where he's just like, I'm
ruin the night for everybody. It's
ruin the night for everybody.
It's like a wedding where like some crazy uncle or ex-lover, crashes a party, starts a fight and then leaves. And now it's ruined for everybody.
Right. And then it just gets weirder and weirder. At one point, like, who was it? They're standing there with the puppy during the memoriam segment and then being like, the best thing you could do for Betty White is to adopt a rescue dog. I mean, it was like maximum surreality. And Will Smith is still just sitting there. It's clear that like from Twitter that people are talking to him. Denzel came over. Each of them had a publicist in their ear, like, burr, 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 burr. We don't know if Chris Rock has come back. We don't know if Will Smith. And so then my son is like, we should just turn this off. And I'm like, oh, no. No. He is very likely to win the Oscar.
Right. That's what Lon told me from This Week in Streaming. I start tweeting with him, who has done a great job the last couple of weeks. Thursdays, This Week in Streaming, we talk about Super Pumped. We don't talk about Super Pumped anymore. We talk about The Dropout. And
we don't talk about Super Pumped.
We don't talk. We crashed, and I guess we're going to get into Severance soon. Anyway, so I'm talking to him, and he's like, you realize he is going to win Best Actor in 10 minutes. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, he is? I didn't even know he was nominated. But then I'm like, oh, that's why he's in the front row. Because I did not pay attention to movies this year. Because COVID. It's like, I don't...
No, most of us
I wasn't going to movies all that often. So this is like a surreal Oscars already, because nobody's seen any of these films. Have you seen any of these films?
No.
Right. Nobody's seen these because COVID, right? It's just like, and they decided most of them are not on streaming, and there was so much good stuff on streaming. These movies, if they're insisting we go to the movie theater, then how are we supposed to even see them? Because we have so many streaming options that are better, candidly.
Yep. And even if they're streaming, it's sort of just like there's so much noise. I don't know. I mean, it's hard. A weird... There's
hard
like
to sit for a 2-hour film today.
Yeah, it is.
That's the other thing that's happening. Is like, who can sit through a 2-hour film today? Who has the attention span when you've got 40-minute, 50-minute, unbelievable streaming shows that are, just a much easier meal to process? It's like going to fine dining. Going to a film is like going to fine dining. It's a 3-hour experience, 4-hour experience with parking. You have to settle in, and you're not distracted.
So right. And it's all about the person making the movie. Like I sort of feel like fine dining got to the point where it was just like, I don't need to sit here while you show off is the nicest way I can think to put it. Like, I don't need to sit here for your sort of 3-hour masturbatory effort. Like
there's a moment when you go to a fine dining experience and it's not going great. If it's going great, it can be transcendent. But there's a moment in hour 2 where you're on dish 9 and like it's been hit or miss, and you're just like, I don't want to get the hell out of here.
And it's so self-indulgent.
And the guy's like, oh, and then, the waiter comes out. He's like, oh, here is, a butternut squash souffle with air. And you're like,
I don't really.
You're giving us the 9th edition for $400 a person is butternut squash foam. He's like, oh, with a truffle, emulsification. And I'm like, you're serving us the foam off of boiling water. Yeah. Like, yes, exactly. I'm like, all right, can I get a steak? Like a ribeye? Please, can we move on here?
It is kind of like that. That's such a good metaphor for what movies have become.
Yes.
It's just like, it's all about you showing up. Okay. So anyway, all that happens.
Yes.
And this is one of those, I mean, look, why are we talking about it on our startup show? Because we all watched it, because everybody's talking about it, because it was like, and because if you are very online, and I know that is the case with our entire audience, pretty much.
Yeah.
It quickly devolved into just a fascinating, like, obviously memes, right? That was the simplest part. But it was so fascinating to see where people fell on this. Like,
it becomes a Rorschach test, right?
It became a Rorschach test. Exactly.
Right. Because there's a group of people who were then like, and this is where race came into it, gender came into it, everything through identity politics all of a sudden starts happening on my feed. I don't know what your feed was doing, but I see a bunch of people are like, why is it Will Smith arrested? And then people are like, why are the white people saying Will Smith be arrested? I'm like, oh my God, this is getting so dark.
Yeah, that's about when I turned it off. I was like, okay.
It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I need to go to bed. I got a big show with Molly tomorrow. And people are now doing the identity politics thing where they're just replacing each character in the narrative with, well, what if it was a white guy who smacked a black guy, or a black guy who smacked a white guy? What if it was The Rock instead of Chris Rock? I'm like, are you swapping out The Rock because he's bigger or because he has the same name? I'm just like, I can't keep up. I just can't keep up with you maniacs.
I mean, this
is social media, right? It's
Twitter is like a lot. Twitter is a lot.
It's every emotion. It's when I was talking to Sam Harris one time, I was talking about, we were having this like real existential thought. And Sam Harris and a friend of mine, we used to go out and have dinner every week or two in LA. We'd go to Italian restaurant Papone's in Brentwood when I lived there. And a couple of my friends lived there. We just have this like existential discussions about AI and technology. And I was talking to him about like, why do our minds go crazy and we can't slow them down? Like, and how that affects our lives. And he said, when I was meditating with Ram Dass or something, and he name dropped somebody, he's like, explain it to me like this. There's a river. That's your mind. And all of the water going down are your thoughts. And your mind just flows like a river. It literally pops into your mind every permutation of every single thing. And it's up to you as a human to decide how much you pay attention to each little, trickle of water going down the river. And you can then take a cup and pull one thought out and sip it, or you can dip your toe into one thought. But you are not obligated to try to drink the entire river of thoughts or think that they all have meaning. But that's what Twitter is. It's just a river of every thought, unconscious, dark, beautiful, narcissistic, dystopian. And that's what we saw last night, was every permutation of it. And I did think to myself, I was very conflicted. Because if somebody said that to my wife, and I'm not saying this has happened before, but it not at the Oscars, if somebody said that to my wife, it would go down. I'm not saying I would hit the person, but I'm not saying I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would definitely get in somebody's face if they came up to my wife and said something. And I'm not saying that's happened before, but people who have experiences, would know if you're an East Coast guy, somebody says something to your wife.
Like you are saying that's happened before.
I'm not saying, I don't know when the statute of limitation runs out in various scenarios.
But yes. Yeah.
That being said, somebody's getting dropped. And if this was at a party and you came up to somebody's wife and you said something like that and you got dropped, I don't think anybody is going to say I'm not condoning violence, but I'm not saying anybody wouldn't give Will Smith a high five or a pat in the back and say, yeah, that guy was out of line.
Yeah.
Hiring well is one of the most important things a startup can do to increase the chances of being an outlier success. And that's what it's all about, right? So if your current hiring strategies aren't working, you're going to need to find a solution, and Rocket can be that solution for you. Rocket is trusted by companies like Tinder, NerdWallet, and Coda because it was built by former tech founders who understand how hard it is to hire at scale. It was built by founders for founders. They use machine learning to supercharge their team of recruiters to help you close hires, and they'll help you hire anyone from an independent contractor all the way to your executive positions. And this is done with a white glove service. Rocket's team of 60 recruiters across the US and Canada understand how startup recruiting is different, and that's helped Rocket deliver results across hundreds of clients. It's going to save you time, it's going to help you meet better candidates, and it's going to lower the number of hiring mistakes. Here's a really easy call to action. I want you to go to getrocket.com/twist and use the promo code TWIST for 20% off your first placement. There is no risk with $0 required up front. That's getrocket.com/twist and use the code TWIST for 20% off. Whether you shoved them or smacked them, punched them, and that brings in another wrinkle that maybe only a guy would understand this nuance or had immediately gone to this. I immediately went to, he smacked him. He didn't punch him.
Right.
He smacked him, which is what you're doing when you're telling somebody you're out of line, but we'll work this out later. But you're getting smacked now.
What I think is so yes. And there are a couple.
Did that in any way go into your mind as a woman that it was a smack, not a punch? I'm just wondering because you and I have these great discussions of gender and differences, interpretation of things.
Yeah, and I don't really know.
Instant thing for me was, he smacked him. It's no big deal.
I was a little really. Wow.
Yeah, if he had punched him, he played Muhammad. Am I correct that Will Smith was in Muhammad Ali?
He could have dropped him. The conversation I actually had with a friend earlier about this was that he 100% could have dropped him.
Yes.
And he slapped him instead, which to me made it even more premeditated feeling. And that, so
on the way up, you knew he had made the decision. When he stood up, he had made the decision. He smacked him.
He had made the decision.
Yes, 100%.
And so that means there was maybe enough of a level of control to instead sit down. Or like here's how Will Smith comes out of this a hero. Look, if this happens at a party and Chris Rock gets punched, that's a whole different issue. This was a performance in a crappy insult comedy show that had already been going on for an hour and a half. And that, some version of that had happened for like the past 3 or 4 years. That's a different scenario. This is like a live broadcast and a billion people are going to see what you're about to do.
Yeah.
If Will Smith goes up there, like here are a couple things that could happen. One, he leans over to Jada Smith. He kisses her bald head. They both give Chris Rock the bird, right? He's like,
sure, that's a great one.
He's like, let me show you that I love and support you. And maybe he even yells, keep my wife's name out of your mouth.
Sure.
Right?
No violence, just a warning.
Or he goes up there and he puts his hand on Chris's shoulder and he physically intimidates him because he's so much bigger. And he says, that's not cool. Keep my wife's name out of your mouth. And then he goes and sits down. And then we're
could have
all
pointed
like,
at his face. Listen.
Could have pointed at his face. That's not acceptable. Right? Like you're punching down. Then he goes and sits down. And then we all are literally like, God, what I can't believe that joke. That's so disgusting. He shouldn't have said that. That's so cruel. And Will Smith comes out a hero. And it all comes down to self-control. But I will tell you the part that really took this over the edge for me, and that was the speech. So then Will Smith
was
wins.
Manic. The speech was manic.
The speech was actually terrifying and kind of psychopathic. And you could see all of these people on Twitter being totally triggered about the fact that, you know what abusers say to you? They tell you that love makes you do crazy things.
Ooh, interesting. I didn't have that interpretation. I just thought this person is unhinged.
Oh, that was like the first thing I thought. I was like, that's terrifying.
Interesting.
When you're saying
unhinged.
It is my love that makes me act
violent
this way.
Yeah.
Like,
it's your
that
fault.
is creepy. And he brings the Williams sisters into it, and he tries to sort of make it seem like that he's like their father.
And I'm protecting the people on the set. I'm like, I didn't understand. He's like, I'm protecting people on the set. And I'm like, I'm sorry. The most privileged group of people in the world, celebrities, need to be protected on a set where they're catered to like queens and royalty, where they will get you like whatever Starbucks you want and you can throw it at them if it comes out wrong and they'll bring you another one. Like, you're protecting them. I'm like, they don't really need protection, celebrities.
Like, that was weird.
There was this reverse narrative, which was like celebrities are going to stand up against this abuse. And I was like, that fell flat real quick.
Yeah.
And then the counter reaction was all these comedians who were like, that's not cool. Now we're all going to get attacked at comedy shows. What did you think of that?
Well, also true. Like, everything about this is just a mess, right? Yeah. And then you saw all of these people. I mean, the dark threads, when I finally was like, I got to put this down. We're like, wait, so Chris Rock deserves to get hit in the face on live television for what he said, but we should take Dave Chappelle comedically, but not seriously. Like, what is the line here, right? What are we saying about comedy? What are we discussing? Yeah. But I mean,
it's pretty clear. Comedy's comedy. It's just words. You don't get to hit people for it.
Well, and people, but here's the other thing though, is like people are people. Everybody's a mess right now. Everybody's super fragile. Don't get me wrong. I think that like that family get some and this is what I said to my son. A man who will hit someone on live television for insulting his wife is a man who will also hit his wife. Like you're not that comfortable with that action. You don't go there first unless that's what you do. On that red table thing, he admitted that like she said something to him, like maybe mocked him in front of the family and he hit her with a newspaper. Like, he said that and then they kind of laughed about it. And there's Willow there and there's the son tweeting, "This is how we do it." Like there's a whole situation happening.
There's a whole situation there with like, why would you have a show where you talk about on Facebook about all your family's trauma?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, if you have trauma, go to therapy, individual, family, couples. That's why it exists.
Right.
And that's the speech, I think, was the cringiest. I almost felt like the speech was more uncomfortable to watch than the smack.
It was so upsetting.
It was really
so
weird.
Upsetting. But
because he's crying and then why did they clap for him?
I don't know. And then no one knew what to do. And then they clap for him. And like they just,
so weird.
It was, oh God, I don't know. All I know is it was terrible. Twitter was on fire. It was sad to say that the literal, I mean, I think I said it. I was like, first I rewound and then I came to Twitter to be like, what the hell just happened?
Let's all group process it.
Let's all group process. So thank God for Twitter. And also worse. And also, can we just stop telling jokes that try to push people to the breaking point? Like maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe we don't need to do that.
I think a mentally ill person combined with a joke that, I still don't know. I think Chris Rock needs to come out and say if he knew she had it and apologize and just contextualize this very quickly. I don't know if he has or hasn't yet. I know he said he's not going to charge. He's not going to press charges. And then I think a bunch of people said he was kind of diffusing it and making jokes. But I felt like I really need to know if he knew she was suffering from this immune disease, or she just decided to cut her hair short. If she decided to cut her hair short, I don't have as much of a problem with the joke because I thought it was complimentary. But I will say this in the simulation. I am guaranteeing right now that they make G.I. Jane 2. Jada Pinkett Smith stars in it because that's how Hollywood works. There's no way this inception in their minds that they're going to let this kind of marketing go away, that she wins an Oscar for it, and that she thanks Chris Rock. Thank you. It's a simulation. If that happens, we are in a simulation.
And you tagged her? Oh, Lord.
I guarantee she's going to play it. I guarantee it. I just know how Hollywood works. They would never let an opportunity like this go away.
That is true.
And she would be great, as she's known for being like an incredibly tough, buff action hero. Is she not? Like, isn't that what she played in, what's the sci-fi film that she was in? Was she in The Matrix? She was in something that she played a really tough. Somebody pull up her IMDb.
Must we? Can we talk about Coda now? It's been like 32 minutes on this.
It hasn't been 32.
Story.
Right,
so many minutes.
I'm sorry we had to process this with you, but
we did have to process it with each other, though, honestly, because we were all on Twitter last night.
Oh, she was on Gotham. Oh, she was in The Matrix. Okay, great.
She was?
A lot of people are thinking
she was on Gotham, and she was amazing.
100% she is going to play G.I. Jane. I've always loved her as an actress. I don't know why he was making fun of her as an actress either, because she's awesome. I always love seeing her on screen.
He's made fun of her a lot, apparently. I did see that going by on Twitter, and one of the noties is saying the same thing.
Yeah, the other bit he did at another Oscars or some People's Choice Award or something was like, she was like commenting on the Oscars, and that would be like him commenting on being Rihanna's lover, like he was not invited. So he was kind of dismissing her as like a B-list celebrity, C-list celebrity before. Okay, so I was just informed that by my producers that the year he went after her was the Oscars So White year. And he was presenting, but there were no Black nominees, I believe, that year. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, what's going on here? The whole thing is just a mess. We can move on, I think. I think we've basically processed every possible angle. Yeah. Is there any angle left unturned yet?
Well, if so, they'll all come up in our group chat later.
It'll be in our group chat later and on Twitter trending. Somebody, Chris Rock, for the love of God,
we have not. I will say we have not heard the end of this story. There is going to be more coming out of this because the Academy part of it alone, just sort of like,
oh my God, the woke Academy
like
The
not
woke
doing a
racist
single thing.
academy has-
Having a like, stop saying woke, having a like
Okay.
assault happen on live TV and not doing anything about it. Like it's just.
Well, I mean, the
a hot
academy was historically very racist. I mean, and then they tried to flip that, right? I mean, that is the history of it, kind of.
So Coda, streaming movie, wins Best Picture. And that is a big deal. It's also a big deal because Apple beat Netflix there.
I want to see Coda so badly now. I had heard the buzz about it. I have not seen it. You haven't seen it either, I take it?
I haven't seen it, but I saw that the lead actor win Best Actor, and I bawled like a child.
I knew
was
it.
so
I was like, Molly
beautiful.
is crying right now.
Oh, ugly cried. I ugly
cried.
cried over that. It was so beautiful. And the woman presenting the award like stopped and was like, "Ooh," and then just sort of, and
I
then
love
signed
the
his
woman
name. I mean,
who
it
wouldn't
was
leave the
just
stage. Yes.
stunning. It was stunning.
The woman who wouldn't leave the stage, did you notice they were trying to pull her off the stage? Like,
Well, no, because she was like, I'll hold your award for you because you need to sign.
but you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to move off the stage to give that person 100% of the moment.
I think they told her, though. I think they told, because he needed to sign. So she was like, I'll hold your award for you so you can have both hands free.
But you still take a step back. So if you look at the tape, I was all in this investigation.
Yeah. And
you're
also
supposed
she was
to take
like,
3
you're
steps
great
back.
and I love you and I'm going to stay here.
She was fawning over him. And it was very endearing.
It was adorable. Oh my God.
Yeah,
it was so historic. It was so incredible. And he was, I think, the first deaf actor to win any kind of an Oscar. And then Apple
I think
TV
they said
Plus.
second. They said second.
Oh, that's right.
Did Marley Maitland win?
Maybe Marley Matlin did win one. Yeah.
Maybe
for best actor.
Marley
does
Matlin
become
did win
the
Best
first-
Actress in 1987
Okay.
for her role in Children of Lesser God. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Incredible
me too.
performance. So second time.
First deaf man. Anyway, either way, it was lovely. And
Children of a
Apple
Lesser
TV
God. Yes.
Plus.
First deaf man. Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Phew. Good. I'm like, there was a first something. And it makes Apple TV Plus the first streaming platform to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, which
Fantastic.
And then Netflix won Best Director with Jane Campion, I believe, becoming only the third woman to win a Best Director award for Power of the Dog. And you
I
got
want
to
to see that too.
That Netflix was like, we spent so much money on all these movies over the years, and freaking Apple TV Plus comes along and wins Best Picture.
Wait. Power of the Dog was Netflix? So they lost.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it's still the year of the streamers again.
It's the year of the streamers again.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Listen, lots of founders are loosey-goosey with their personal numbers. We all know that. They put it on company documents, they use it for sales calls and more. And that's where things get super messy. You don't know who's calling you, right? Is it a sales prospect? Is it a coworker? Or is it somebody from your kid's school? Is it spam? Well, OpenPhone helps you create business phone numbers for you and your team. And it works through an app on your smartphone very elegantly or on your desktop. You just pick a number, you install the app, and you're done. There is no need to carry 2 phones like I do. And there's so many features you're going to love, including, how we all create catch-all emails like support@ourcompanyname.com? Well, you can do something similar for a phone number. You can have a shared phone number with multiple employees fielding those incoming texts and the calls. What a brilliant idea. See what OpenPhone can do for you. It's already affordable at a starting price of just $10 a month per user. So affordable. And Twist listeners can get an extra 20% off any plan for your first 6 months by signing up at openphone.co/twist. And if you have existing numbers from another service, no problem. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, OpenPhone can port them over for free. Just head over to openphone.co/twist today. openphone.co/twist today. I love this kid, Jesse Plemons. I tweeted, I don't remember his name, but when Jesse Plemons comes on the screen, I'm riveted. He is my new Philip Seymour Hoffman, or Benedict Cumberbatch. When I see him, I'm just it's pure talent. And I'm going to see The Power of the Dog for him first, Benedict Cumberbatch second, and Paul Dano third. I love all 3 of those actors.
I like all of them, and I also have no interest in seeing that movie.
I don't know what it's about. I know it's a Western and I know that another person was making fun of it and the director made some reference to Venus and Serena at the People's Choice Award or something that was cringeworthy. I mean, why do we look for celebrities for any kind
I remember.
of...
I mean, honestly, that is the maximum point here, which is our celebrity culture is so toxic and
These are
has been for decades.
yeah.
This is not a new observation, but oh my God.
Why do we care about what celebrities say? They're dick. They literally put all their effort into being famous. They're fame balls, mostly.
Yep.
And they have no
and also,
judgment. They have nothing interesting to say 95% of the time.
But we do the same thing with founders. Like,
it's true too.
The whole,
it's true
you know,
too. Yeah.
it's,
yeah, why are you
here
looking
we
for
are
a
having to be
founder?
celebrity VCs in order to get deal flow. Like, it's a whole.
Whoa. Pump the brakes there. We're doing it for a good reason. Listen to our opinions. Whoa.
We get the deal flow anyway.
In the words of Bob Dylan, trust yourself. Like, you do not need to trust a bunch of celebrities to mitigate your view of the world, or VC celebrities, or founders. Trust yourself. Come to your own conclusions. Think first principles. Do your own research. And have some like moral compass as to like what is acceptable in life. Period. End of story. Enough with the celebrities.
Enough with the celebrity culture.
Enough with the politicians. Enough with the celebrities. Enough with the founders, the VCs. All this nonsense. Let's talk
about the celebrity culture of the crypto world. Am I right?
Oh God, here it comes. That was not a great segue. We got to work on that segue. You perfectly got me off of woke. You admonished me for using the term woke. Everybody loved it in the chat room. People are going to start calling you Twist Karen. They're like, and people were already like,
wow. Jason's like, I'm going back. He's
crypto,
like,
can we show one meme from the slap that is perfectly? It's a perfect segue to this.
I don't know if I want to go to the memes, but okay. We're going to do a quick meme. No, I'm fine with doing rapid fire memes. Everybody loves memes. Rapid fire memes.
Don't do rapid fire because most of them are really bad.
No, just one.
We'll do one. That's
Which
fun.
one?
Wait. Now you told the audience that they're terrible. They want to see them. Give us one meme. Okay. Chris Rock in this meme plays decentralization. And Will Smith plays Andreessen Horowitz, VCs purchasing 90% of governance tokens. Basically. It's an A16Z joke, I think. I give it a 7. I get the joke. It's not bad.
All right, okay, let's stop watching that man hit that other man, because frankly, it's not that fun.
It's too violent. I do like the Knicks fans. This is a no joke. Only Knicks fans can like. Knicks fans when Tibbs leaves the starters in through the entire third quarter. It's really funny, that one, because Will Smith is from Philly.
Oh, God.
And Chris Rock is a diehard Knicks fan from New York. Anyway, moving on. Okay. It has to stop. The meme, how long do these things last now? Is it 36 hours as the mean time till moving on? Mean time to MTTM. Mean time to moving on is now 36 hours. This happened last night at 8, tonight at 8, which means sometime in the morning on Tuesday, you're not going to hear anything about this. 36 hours is MTTM.
That sounds great. Yeah.
And we are going to MTTM now, 36 minutes into this discussion.
Nice.
This one thank you.
May linger, but we'll see.
No, please, no callbacks.
Despite my terrible attempt at a clunky segue.
You are the queen of the transition, though. I will give you that.
mean, sometimes the awkward joke is a really funny joke.
You're so professional. I mean, you have brought a level of professionalism to the show that I cannot drag down. Oh, I love you as my co-host.
Other story, I know this is the best part of my day. Other stories that we can't stop talking about, obviously, the banana pants crypto universe and the fact that these deals are now so hot and VCs are so desperate to get into these hot crypto startups that they're passing on board seats.
I'm sorry.
Case in point.
My monitor went out here in my ear. You said locking down a board seat. I think it came in as passing on board seats for a $32 billion company. I think you meant assuring there was proper governance. Is that what you said? Right.
Yeah. No, I said, they're just not going to have any. They're just not going to have any governance of these companies.
No, please, no.
Double barrel.
Flag. No.
Double barrel.
Oh,
you can't
idiots.
see us right now, but
you
red flags are waving.
We're waving our red flags. Full quadruple red flag everywhere.
The case in point today is that FTX, one of the fastest growing crypto exchanges in the world, is worth $32 billion and evidently not a one of its investors has a board seat.
It's so ridiculous.
Like, what is happening? It only has 3 board members. It has 3. Founder and CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX executive Jonathan Cheeseman, previously Goldman Sachs and HSBC, and some attorney based in Antigua and Barbuda, where FTX is incorporated.
An Antigua attorney. Shout out to the 17 attorneys in Antigua.
I'm just going to keep my red flag just as my hat today.
Oh, it is so
'Cause
crazy. It literally should just be.
What is happening?
What is happening is right.
What is happening?
It's so crazy because we just went through this where on All In, Brad Gerstner and Chamath and I were talking about companies going public at high valuations and the private market investors right before they go public not putting into their deals a ratchet. In other words, if the company is going to go out at 20 and then you bought shares, you put $1 billion in for a $20 billion valuation, you own 5%. If it does go out at 10, then instead of getting 5% of the shares, you would get more shares to make up for the fall, right? Mm-hmm. In the valuation, you get 10%. Anyway, this is crazy. LPs need to talk to their VCs. And this is where the LPs actually can have...
Actually, great point.
This is where LPs can have a little bit of common sense and just say LPs now are scared of pissing off the VCs. VCs are scared of pissing off the founders. And the founders are scared of getting ousted or taking advantage of a crazy moment in time. And
this is, and by the way, just as a side note, just in the latest story about how there's a company called Casio, a Solana stablecoin project that was hacked by some sort of like Robin Hood type who returned smaller amounts and donated the rest. And now this, the back end is saying like, we can't compensate users. And I'm reading all this from Web3 is going just great, which is all about all of the scams, all of the hacks, all of the ways in which people are losing money at this. And then the idea that you wouldn't even have governance saying like, hey, is it safe? How's your security? Like, do you have contingency plans in the case of one of these hacks so that you could return the money to users? Like, none of that is just, I don't understand how we keep dealing ourselves these self-inflicted wounds as an industry that I have only recently joined.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just say this. This does not mean, all these red flags, that the founder did not do the right thing in negotiating the best deal for them. And this does not mean that the business itself is not a fantastic business. But proper governance is something that protects all shareholders. It protects the employees, all stakeholders, the employees, the customers, the partners, the investors, the LPs of the funds, and ultimately the public. You want to have proper governance so that if somebody makes a bad decision, there's somebody there who says, you know what? I've seen this movie before. And this is not in the best interest of all shareholders. And we should have a vote or we should have a discussion about this. And then if the discussion leads to, people having a difference of opinion, you say, you know what? Let's bring in some consultants. Let's bring in some outside people to give us their opinion on what we should do. Let's get some experts. Let's get some attorneys. Let's get some accountants. Let's get some HR people. Let's get some consulting group. And you have a very thoughtful, debate over the merits of what you're doing. And then based on that, hopefully you can have a vote that then leads one way or the other. Well, if this was WeWork and the founder got super voting shares, which eventually Adam Neumann did get, then nobody could stop a founder who's out of control and is spending the investor money and double dealing, which is what WeWork did, right? You guys know the story of him selling the IP back to himself, buying the buildings and selling them back to the company. All of this stuff, proper governance would protect against. And in fact, in that case, the press wound up being the governance as a backstop. Right. If the press is your backstop, governance has failed. Let me say it again. If the press is your backstop, governance has failed. If Madoff, Elizabeth Holmes, and Adam Neumann had proper governance, it wouldn't have been John Carreyrou and whoever broke the stories about the other companies that needed to be the backstop. This is where the press does a great job. This is where the press is necessary. This is where investigative journalism is brilliant and important. But we as capital allocators need to play our role too, not just abdicate it, is that the word? To the press.
Abdicate. Yep, that's exactly the word.
Which is stupid.
And I don't, I see Nodi saying that this guy is such a great founder and this is a really good company. And here's the thing.
Sure, could be true.
Maybe. But if he's the guy insisting on not having investors take board seats, if he's the guy who's essentially saying your investment, I know you really wanted this deal and the way that you're going to get in is with this contingency in place, I am skeptical. I think there is good reason to be skeptical of someone who doesn't want oversight. That almost never is a good sign.
Precisely.
It makes you better.
You should want it. And I just want to also look at the funding history here. And this is not like if I had 20 red flags, I would be waving them. But I'm just going to pull out my red flags here. 2019, They raised $8 million. We don't know what valuation, but you would assume for 10% of the company, 5% of the company, something in that range. So that would be 8 times 20, 160 million. I'm just taking a guess on that one. Educated guess. January 2020, they're at 1.2 billion. 18 months later, July of 2021, this is all during the pandemic, they're worth 18 billion. That is 15x. No business grows 15x in 18 months. But okay, maybe it was undervalued. I don't think so. But if we go back to 2019, 2 years earlier, it was probably worth 150. So now we're talking about 100x in 24 months. That's a major red flag. But the red flag continues because from July of 2021 to October of 2021, August, September, October, 3 months later, the business were 25 billion. So they had 7 billion in market cap. They added a Peloton in market cap. That doesn't make any sense. And then, Molly, we go from October 21 to January of 2022. So November 2021, December 2021. 3 months later, they're adding another 7 billion. So this company, every 3 months, adds $7 billion in market cap. While crypto is going down in value during those last 3 bumps.
During those last 3, sure. I mean, it did go bonkers. We should acknowledge at least that crypto did go absolutely supernova during the pandemic. However, there were also players coming in every hour.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to imagine that one company was able to snap up this much value and this much market share and grow this fast. Also, I mean, look, maybe it's fine, but FTX is incorporated in Antigua and Barbuda and moved its headquarters from Hong Kong to the Bahamas in 2021. I don't know. Like, there's just this whole...
Another red flag.
I don't know why that seems like a red flag, but it does. Like, why aren't you just incorporated like in Delaware, like everybody else?
It would be because of regulations.
It's because of regulations.
Moving out of Hong Kong would be to get out of the Chinese government, which could seize your business at any point in time, like they've done, and change the rules. So that makes sense. Then the next logical place to go would be America, I guess, or London. You know, 2 capitals of finance in the world. But
we do have a little clip. Should we hear why? We apparently have a 38-second clip to find out why. Here's the founder, Sam, explaining why.
To need to move the company away from Hong Kong and how significant are those factors behind the decision in terms of hurting the future of crypto?
Yeah, so I think the biggest things that we're thinking, we'd never had a single sort of formal headquarters before. And we were really excited about establishing one in the Bahamas. I think the biggest things, first of all, they passed a really progressive, forward-looking bill regulating the crypto industry there. It's one of the only countries in the world that has a comprehensive licensing regime for crypto exchanges. That's really exciting. Frankly, the lack of quarantine to get into the country is really important. It means that we can get in and out, that we can have business meetings.
Okay, I kind of buy it. Those are some good reasons, I guess.
I don't know, man.
But very strange.
It's just one big red flag.
So from FTX's website, another wrinkle here. FTX does not onboard or provide services to corporate accounts of entities located in, established in, or residents of the United States of America? Why not? Cuba, Crimea, Sevastopol, Iran, Afghanistan, Syria, or North Korea. We understand the authoritarian, blacklisted countries there, but why wouldn't they?
But also the United States.
But also, we're putting the United States with North Korea and Afghanistan and Syria and Iran. Really? Something weird there. I think they don't want to be involved in any U.S. regulation. So, okay, I think looking at this business, it could be on the up and up. It could be they just don't want to touch Americans because they don't want to get dragged into regulations, which is a bit of a red flag for our SEC, which has not defined clear rules.
Yes.
FTX has a U.S.-focused division, which is independently set up to comply with the U.S. laws and corporate structure requirements. And that business is worth $8 billion. Okay, so I guess they've separated out the businesses because they don't want one to touch the other. That actually makes sense. I do think the United States needs to be super clear on these. And I think the clarity should be, listen, if you're raising these things, they're securities, unless people are actually using the tokens in the ecosystem. It's very simple.
I really want Gary Gensler to come on our show. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We should I think it's an open invite, but just as a concept here, if you buy a utility token, here's an easy test. And I know that crypto people are going to flood my replies here, but explain to me why I'm wrong. If it is a utility token and it's used and it's not for speculation, then there should be a requirement that you have that utility token and you use it as a utility within 24 months of buying it. or the product or service being offered. In other words, if there are miles, if people were buying and selling airline miles, Molly, and never cashing them in for gift cards or flights, you would say that person is involved in them as a currency, would you not? They're speculating. The same should be true of crypto. And so you have to prove that you've used your utility tokens and you're not sitting on them. So you have to use your utility token every 2 years. So it makes sense that you could stockpile miles for a year or two. But if you're stockpiling miles for 3 or 4 or 5 years, that would be a very fair test. And then anybody else who buys them, they are buying a security. Therefore, it's under securities law. So I'm not saying you can't buy them, but you would have to buy them under a different designation. So you're buying the coins to play the game. Great. You have to put the quarters into the arcade machine. If you're buying them to do smart contracts, to buy NFTs, you have to actually buy NFTs. But if you're buying them for speculation, a different rule. And then always, I think, under 10 million a year, I've been talking about this for a while, or maybe let's make it 100 million. You can raise up to 100 million for any project every year, but no person can put more than $10,000 of their average 2-year tax return into that project.
Like an invest. Well, and so then as it relates to FTX, if those rules were clear and this exchange knew that those were the rules under which they could operate, it would give them the regulatory clarity to know, like to be able to operate the business as a whole in one place instead of have to segment it up the way it has been doing. We should point out that the U.S. business does have a board of directors. So in minor good news, the U.S. derivatives business has a board of directors chaired by Larry E. Thompson, who was previously general counsel of the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. So it seems to be taking different approaches for different businesses in different locations, some of which maybe have more oversight than others.
But this is a trend. And so PitchBook, which is a great service, my friend John Gabbett started it. The Financial Times broke this down with PitchBook data. Over 400 cryptocurrency startups have raised a Series A without raising another round of funding over the past few years, which could mean they went out of business or they're zombie startups, but it more likely means they've been raising through tokens and non-dilutive funding.
Right.
Half of those had only 1 or 2 directors on their boards, according to analysis by PitchBook. So that is a big red flag. You know, after you raise a Series A, you should have a 5-person board. Generally 1 or 2 of the founders, 1 independent, 1 or 2 investors is how it would break down. You should have 5. You shouldn't have 3. You don't need to have 7 or 9 or 12 or whatever odd number, 11, 15. That would be public board area. So 5 is the right number. And so these have roughly half or 80% less. It could also be PitchBook's data is not perfect because they can only go on what information is given to them. But there's red flags all over this. And it's going to, I think we were talking about this on Thursday when we had Lana for This Week in Streaming, that we will see in 5 years a wave of cryptocurrency scams becoming made for TV movies.
Absolutely.
On the streamers.
And also that we may see another wave of that we've seen over the years, like after the .com bust, there was, every founder had to have a grown-up in the room. Then a lot of power returned to founders. Now you're seeing a double whammy in crypto of it's so hot and exciting that you have power returned to founders and the governance contingencies effectively. Like I won't give you a board seat so that you can take my money faster. And that we're likely to see a pendulum shift as a result of that too, to like more
and you will
public
also see,
governance.
Molly, you will also see a repricing of all of these projects.
Yeah.
Just like we saw a repricing of all the growth stocks over the past, 6 months in the public markets. Yeah. So what we're seeing in public markets is being reflected now in private markets and will eventually make it to the crypto markets. This level of, as Brad Gerstner said on All In last week or over the weekend, this Red Bull high is not coming back for growth stocks. It's going to be a return to the 5-year mean, and we'll see something similar in crypto. And by the way, if you're in crypto and you have one of these overpriced projects, sell as many tokens as you can now. Just like people who were in some crazy .com company should have sold it, or people who were in some crazy growth stock over the last 10 years should have taken some chips off the table. Take some chips off the table is my best advice if it was like a family member. I'm not giving financial advice, but
definitely
that's my financial advice to a family member. Full perfect disclaimer I can always give. This is what I would advise my brother. And just to be clear, FTX is raising not in a token sale. They're raising from venture capitalists, the most sophisticated investors on the planet who do not need protection, are making this crazy bet of no governance. Period, full stop. So you don't have to worry about them. They are making these decisions with eyes wide open.
Be fine.
With
Apparently
people's retirements and endowments from giant universities or whoever put money into these as LPs. I mean, LPs wake up. I mean, if I'm an LP, I'm literally having an emergency meeting with all of my crypto-related funds that I'm LPing and saying, whoa, I was just watching This Week in Startups and Molly and Jake Al were talking about no governance. Can we do a governance review on every project?
What's happening? Yeah.
What is happening? Proper governance, people. Then we don't have to make TV shows. I'm sorry to Hollywood, because if proper governance comes back, it's going to be a lot less drama on these TV shows. It's going to kill streaming.
We can't have proper governance because we need the IP.
Well, I mean, imagine
it's either that or another Marvel sequel. What do you guys want? What do you want?
Well, imagine Theranos had proper governance and they had told Balwani and Elizabeth Holmes, okay, you're going to be, VP of product and you're going to be Chief Visionary Officer, and we're bringing in a proper CEO. The proper CEO would have been like, give everybody their money back.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't. And that company did have proper governance. It just had poor governance. Like they made a mistake, but they could have ousted her and they didn't.
Exactly. They were rolled. They got rolled by their CEO. Also, for like a nanosecond, I thought you said, imagine if Thanos had proper governance. And
absolutely. If Thanos had proper governance, he wouldn't want to kill half the people in the world. Sadistic maniac. He would have wanted like 2 of the Infinity Stones, not 3. The Infinity Stones are the board members. You give all 5 Infinity Stones to one person, they snap their fingers. That's it. Somebody make
a meme.
A meme of literally Zuckerberg collecting the Infinity Stones of everybody's voting shares. Peter Thiel's, Excel's, and then have Zuckerberg snap his fingers.
It's genius. I mean, that is freaking genius.
I'm coming in hot today with the double coffee.
Coming in hot. All right, so we do this one last story about Apple, and it's
I think it's arguably the most interesting one, and then I'll go to the Molly hot tub story.
I think this is fascinating, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this idea that no one can afford anything, and so every single thing needs to be broken up into payments, and yet it makes things pretty accessible. Okay, let me tell you what I'm talking about. Last week, Bloomberg reported that Apple's working on a hardware subscription for iPhones and iPads. Bloomberg's sources were people familiar with the matter, and a spokesperson for Apple, not surprisingly, declined to comment. But this would make device ownership similar to, paying a monthly fee. Now, I actually think this is something that Apple, isn't this what we already talked about, first of all, but this is something Apple's already doing. Like, people effectively buy an iPhone as a subscription plan now anyway. And it seems like Apple's saying, let's just maybe, if
you're talking about with their Apple cards, like when you go to buy, you check out, if you have an Apple card, they offer you monthly payments.
Right. Or if you buy it through a carrier. I mean, this is how most Americans get phones. Nobody buys a phone outright anymore. Everybody gets it on a monthly installment plan.
That's installment plans, which is a designation
different.
That's different. Got it.
From subscription. So in this case, I guess it would be like, it's a subscription. You just pay for it. And then every 2 years you trade it in. God help the planet. Maybe Apple ends up making a little more over time. I don't really know, because people would pay for this for 2 years instead of reselling that. But it would make device ownership similar to paying a monthly fee, which is also something that was floated informally by the new Peloton CEO.
Right. And we lauded the new CEO for that. It makes total sense. Because what a lot of people are doing, myself included, is, and you just said you did this. Now, you said, why wouldn't I take the zero? It's like zero interest, right?
Yeah, zero interest.
So why wouldn't you take it? I didn't take it. And I was like, oh, wow, Molly's right. I should do it. And I will do it in the future. And then when I go back, anytime the new phone comes out, I trade in. Because I'm in the tech business and it's a luxury I can afford to do as a tech person. It's a business expense. I need to do it. I want to be on the latest stuff so I can talk about it here on the pod.
Yep.
So when I trade it in, I typically get 600 of my 1,400 back, 1,200 back. So I'm essentially rolling my own subscription.
Yep, exactly.
This would be a formal rolling of a subscription, which I would put in the $79 a month range, which would be $900 a year, maybe $1,800 over 2 years. So you pay a slight premium, or they could do it for the same price. They could make it $50 a month, which would be $600, be $1,200. So it could just be straight $50 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And they just call it a subscription. And at the end of the subscription, you go to the store, hand in your phone. If it's got any damage, you pay a difference in damage. But if it's in reasonable shape, they just hand you a new one. Or they just send you the box. Because I did the box thing, and that was delightful too. You just put it back in the box and send it to them.
That is awesome. What's interesting too is that Apple recently got me with, they sent me a little notification. They were like, hey, you're paying like $27 for some Apple subscriptions, but not all. And if you want to save money, you can bundle them all together for $29. And now you're subscribed to everything that Apple makes, like the Apple iCloud bundle or whatever.
You get cloud.
Oh, yeah.
You get news. You get arcade. You get Apple
fitness.
Plus. You get fitness. And I think you get music.
Maybe your books. Oh, yeah. Maybe iTunes.
Music
iTunes
too.
Music.
Yeah, I did that. I did it for my family. And I don't know what it costs, but I saw it and I was like, 5 family members, because I already do it for the iCloud. So everybody's devices are backed up on iCloud for one price. And we all have the same drive. Because when you get 2 terabytes for the drive and you use 1.2, you're like, this is the whole family.
Right.
So if one family member takes a lot of photos and video, because they're the family videographer, they take up the bulk of it. It's great.
So imagine if you have that bundle and then all of a sudden they just toss some hardware in there.
Genius.
Yep.
Genius. Yep. I talked about this years ago. I called it Apple Prime. Somebody pull the CNBC clip about Apple Prime and send it to me. But this would be great because what it does is it locks people in. You're never going to unsubscribe from Amazon Prime. I don't know anybody who's ever unsubscribed from Amazon Prime unless they get married and then they move to account. That's the one thing that happens is like people go on a family plan. But this will be you will never be able to leave the Apple ecosystem once they get this dialed in.
And then this ensures that those hardware margins, which as we know is like all that Apple really cares about. I mean, look, if this gets us to a point where our subscription to the hardware is subsidizing the innovation that we keep asking for in various ways, great, right? If you can guarantee that everybody's going to get the damn phone, then maybe you could use some of your spare time to like do all these other cool things, like nail the podcasting all in one rig or the home video conferencing all in one rig that Jason was suggesting last week.
Yeah, the podcasting rig. I did see Daring Fireball and a bunch of other folks were talking about the new monitor, and they panned an
MKBHD, or as I like to call him, Marquez.
Marquez panned it, this 5K one, and so did MKBHD. Oh, right, HD. MKBHD.
Marcus Brownlee HD.
And the Daring Fireball Gruber, he's got his own podcast. John Gruber's really great. And he panned it. They were just like, this thing's like $1,800 to, with the swivel to make it go up and down or whatever. And they were like, this is a complete waste of money. I'm buying it anyway. I did see an unboxing video for Mac Studio.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, it's heavy. I was like, oh, I want it. It's like, it weighs more than my Mac Mini M1. I want it.
I don't really want. I'm with Nebraska SXHC in the Noti gang though, who's saying like I kind of want to cut out all of these subscriptions at this point. Like,
yes,
it is getting overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Like all of these make sense. Sort of like the news universe. All these make sense one at a time. Like it makes sense that I pay a monthly mortgage and a monthly car payment and a monthly subscription to the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Economist, the Financial Times, and the San Francisco Chronicle, and HBO and Netflix. And, when you start to sort of like add all of these things up and then everybody's like, no, it's cool. You can totally get this as a monthly subscription. Then pretty soon your monthly nut is just like absurd.
You're an indentured servant to
all of these services. And I just want a freaking phone and I'm going to do whatever the hell I want with it.
Imagine Apple does come out with a car. Imagine Apple does come out with a television. They already have Apple TV with their content. Now imagine Apple decides they're going to make apartments and housing. You literally would be spending 67% of your post-tax revenue on the car, house, and content and computers to Apple. I mean, that's actually the start of a dystopian script. Oh my God, let's make a short film where Apple does this. And then somebody winds up living on the Apple campus, driving an Apple car, and they get their pay stub, and it says, you made $10,000 this month. $6,700 to Apple for your car, your home, whatever. Your net pay, $3,000 in taxes. Your net pay $300.
My God,
It's basically where it's going.
Shiver.
It's basically where it's, that's where it's going.
It is. It absolutely is.
Okay.
My God.
All right, I think we did enough show for today.
I think we did. I
mean,
did.
All this other stuff we have to just
Is the
put
hot tub story just for noties?
No, I think the hot tub story can be for everybody. So I am at the community rec center in my ski chalet town. And the guy's in the hot tub, his wife, and the kids are playing with each other in the pool. Hey, what do you do? Oh, I sold a company to this company. What do you do? Oh, I have a podcast and I angel invest. And oh, what's the podcast? It's like This Week in Startups. I never heard of it. I never heard of it. I was like, yeah, we kind of talk about this stuff. And we just brought in Molly Wood to be my co-host. Molly Wood from Marketplace? I was like, yes, Molly Wood from Marketplace. Oh my God, she's so smart. She's brilliant. I was wondering where she went. She left and I've stopped listening to Marketplace. I was like, yeah, she's on my co-host on This Week in Startups. I never heard of that. I was like, yeah, you mentioned you never heard of This Week in Startups before.
You're like, thanks, buddy. Thanks.
I was like, no, it was the wife. And she's like, oh, we listen to Molly all the time. She's so smart. She's eloquent. She's funny. And they could not stop talking about Molly Wood in the hot tub.
I hope they're listening to the show right now.
I did. Literally, I start trading texts and they're like, what's the name of your podcast with Molly Wood again? I was like, This Week in Startups. Here it is. I was like, I've been doing this for 11 years, folks. You didn't hear of it, and you live in Palo Alto, and you haven't heard of it.
I mean, you have to admit, National Public Radio is
it's pretty dope.
Totally other. It's a whole other world that's all about hot tubs and ski chalets.
I am. No, these were like rich, elite, liberal people who, they enjoy a little public radio. That's all. And they're a huge Molly Wood fan. So I thought that would make you feel good.
I love that.
Everybody give Molly Wood her flowers for getting inducted into the Hall of Fame on Friday. Just once again, congratulations. Everybody in the chat, just throw up your flower emojis for Molly. And it's been great. Mondays are always the best.
Mondays are the best.
Mondays with Molly, J. Cal.
It's how we
throw up your M's.
In the chat. Wah, 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 wah.
Hey everyone, producer Nick here. I want to tell you about the SaaS Syndicate. If you're a founder of a SaaS company with a product in market, our investment team wants to talk to you. Head over to thesyndicate.com/SaaS, SAAS, to apply to raise from the SaaS Syndicate. And you can join Jason's syndicate of over 9,000 accredited investors at thesyndicate.com.
Producer Justin here. Know a cool startup? Check out openscouting.com, where anyone can refer a startup to our investment team here at launch. Even if you don't know the founder, if you're the first to flag a company for us and we decide to invest, you'll get $5,000 in cash or 10% of our carry.
Hey everybody, producer Rachel here. Are you an early stage startup that has product in market, some traction, and are looking to raise at least $500,000? Apply today to Remote Demo Day for your chance to pitch to over 9,000 investors in Jason's syndicate. Submit your application at remotedemoday.com. Our next event is on April 27th.
And if you want to learn how to invest in startups from the world's greatest angel investor, and no, we're not talking about Chris Sacca, then head to angel.university to apply. The 4-hour workshop costs $300 and all proceeds are donated to charity. To date, we've donated over $175,000 to various charities, and you can see the full list at angel.university/charity.